Well, great. Thanks for coming in. It's
No
nice
problem.
to catch up with you.
Yeah.
Kofi, you're going to be the face of City of Culture for the BBC. Kofi Smiles. So, Kofi, this project is about people's African heritage.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell us about your connection with Africa.
Well, my parents come from Ghana. I think they've been here about 35 years, maybe a bit more. I think my connection probably stems more towards my mum's side of the family, because I got a lot of kind of education and history and stuff from my mum, because I'd be cooking with her a lot. Like, we're growing up in Withernsea, so she wouldn't want us outside all the time when we was like small. So she'd have my brother like tied on her back, you know, as you do with like the cloth and stuff. She'd be like, "Can you pass me that, hand me that?" And I'd be asking her, why do we cook things like that? And why do we do it in this order? And I get a lot of knowledge and history through her. And it's quite cheesy, but she told me stories as well, told me bedtime ones and stuff, like first learning about like Anansi, and I figuring out like the first Spiderman being black and stuff like that. Obviously in Britain, in the Westwood, you got like Peter Parker, but you know, remember the old ladybird type stories?
Yes.
They were the ones about West African culture, and all the majority of the ones that I read were all about Anansi the Spider-Man and him dealing with the sky god and stuff. So I think that's where a lot of mine comes from.
Right,
and,
okay.
yeah.
So tell us more about your mum, whereabouts in Ghana, and what was the family involved with,
My mum
jobs-wise?
come Kumasi. My grandma, she had like a little kitchen and a shop on like, because I should go back, because you have like plots of land rather than like individual houses. So you might have the main house, the out kitchen, and a front house, which would kind of usually be parallel with the front gates. And usually the front house might house a few people, or it might be used for some sort of service. Like my grandparents' place, they use the front one as like a shop, and they'd sell like, I don't know, minerals. That'd be like drinks, and which, by the way, if we go to Ghana and you have something like a Fanta or a Coke, the sugar levels and sweetness is literally just, it's like a rocket. It sends you through the roof. I remember me and my sisters were drinking all the time, and like we came back to the UK and we had like a Fanta lemon. It was like, oh, what is this? It's like watered down. You know, just because it didn't have enough, having to put our own sugar in it just to kind of top it off. But
And you've still got an amazing smile.
yeah, well, that's thanks to my dad. So, so my grandma, she would sell stuff out the shop, and my granddad was a registrar, so he worked a lot like with the government and the universities, just kind of with enrollment, quite a lot of admin, and just kind of seeing the day-to-day facilities. I think he worked a bit at the university, but I'm not 100% sure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the town. What was the town, the community like?
I think it was, my mum grew up in Kumasi, I think. Oh, this is really bad because I'm not 100% what I know. All I know is where they're located now, so it's just outside of Accra. She's one of 9. She's the oldest. And she seems to have. I know one thing she said. My mum was always up really early because she hated doing her chores in the sun because she doesn't like the heat. So she'd always get up, do all her housework, and then just watch her brother and sisters having to work in the heat. And she'd like just sit just watching them fanning herself down while they all get their work done. She's still like that now. She can go to bed like midnight, and then she'll be up at 5, 6 because it's just like in her body clock. So
right, yeah. Tell me about how you came about then to be born in the UK.
Dad came over. He did dentistry, studied at Edinburgh, and he did a bit of work in Manchester. Somehow he found himself in Beverley, and then my mum came over to join. Then she had Julie in 1983, and then Steph in 85. But I think a year after Steph was born, they moved out to Withernsea, and my dad was working for a dentist out there. But then he had the opportunity to take it over, so he's still running it now. And then I was born in Beverley Westwood, which you can keep a cow on the Westwood Grange if you're born in the hospital. Not many people know that. Yeah. You guys know that.
So tell me about the young Kofi then. What was school like? What are your earliest memories?
My earliest memory is definitely like my mum's water breaking with my little brother. I was literally sat down playing on the radiator with my toy cars, and my mum was like mopping some up near the washing machine. I just remember something hitting the floor, and I thought it was a washing machine that was leaking. And mum was like, "Go and tell your dad, like my water's broken." I've been like, Dad, Mum says the water's broken. And he was in his room just like, what? I said, Mum says the water's broken. And I heard him just been like, oh, just be like, God, just like a hassle of coming down. And then obviously my little brother's born. I told everyone that Mum was having twins, so she got all these cards and stuff. And everyone's like, why am I getting cards about twins? And I was just like, well, I don't know. It's not my fault. But I think as a kid, in fact, it's really weird you mention that because I've thought about this quite a lot. I don't think I realised that I knew that I was very different to everyone else in school. Like, especially when I was like 5, 6, it was like, there's something kind of like not quite the same, but you can't pinpoint what it is. Like obviously on a physical kind of like level, I think I was very into like, no, you might even say nothing's changed. I was very into my comics, like my superheroes, as most little kids are. And like, I really kind of identified with things like the Turtles and Ghostbusters, X-Men, Spiderman and stuff. But yeah, I was kind of like...
Who was your favourite superhero then?
My favourite superhero as a kid. My sister said I always had like 2 swords because I always wanted to be like Leonardo and stuff. And like Spider-Man and things. But yeah, that was it. Like I read a lot of books. I think because my mum was so preoccupied with other stuff, keep me quiet, they'd just give me something to read. And like, I remember like I used to read all the Goosebumps books. Every week my dad would reluctantly take me into Hull. He got me like these Goosebumps books 3 in 1. I'd just like fly through them. Like I just like to keep, I just love stories, you know what I mean? And I think like that took a lot of my time. But I didn't play out as much with the other kids other than like for sport and school and things. And yeah, I think that helped me a lot in school, like reading and writing and stuff. There were some occasions where like, I'd written some things and teachers didn't believe that I'd written it, so they had to call my parents in. And like, I remember one case like around GCSE, a bit of creative writing piece. English teacher called my mum and dad in. Mum went to see her, and then I remember like, waiting outside, listening to my mum talk. I couldn't really hear through the door. Then my mum just came out, didn't say anything. As soon as I got in the car, she was just like, more of that. Because she was just like, that's what you need to keep doing. You just need to keep proving people wrong, that they might have this ideal of you, and you can be so much more and stuff. So yeah.
So was this sort of schooling in Beverley or Withernsea?
Oh, that was at Hull, because I went to Withernsea Junior School. Then I was at Hull Grammar, Heimers, and then ended up at William Wilberforce, which was like, out of all of it, the best. That was probably the best year.
Wilberforce College.
Yeah. It was like, I told my mum and dad, I was like, the money you spent for me at Heimers at Hull Grammar, you should have given that to Wilberforce, because like they get kids from like the best and worst schools in Hull and in the area, get them to a point where they can take that next step, like the focus, the attention, just the teaching methods, and like the people there were just like, it was so good. I probably wouldn't have gone if I didn't meet Bax, because like we had so many. It was like, oh, you should come to Wilberforce. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't sure if I was going to go to uni. Didn't know if I had enough points for uni. And then Bax kind of persuaded me to come there, and like, it was fantastic. We got a good year. We were running like nights at a bar and stuff. It was crazy. It was good. But yeah, I loved it there. I really felt like kind of came into my own there. Met some like one of my best friends there and stuff. So yeah.
Mentioned a short while ago, around about the age of 5, perhaps you began to realise that you were different, racially to the other kids.
Yeah, it was like, it's going to sound so weird. It was things like, I noticed that a lot of the girls were into a lot of the guys that had like curtains and straight hair. So I can remember like wanting to like relax my hair so it was a bit spiky or something. But do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a bit weird, a bit cringy thinking about this now, because like, obviously you just want to fit in, don't you? And like, I know it's like, just thinking the one thing that's different between me and those other lot is just like little things like my hair, my skin and stuff like that. But I was like, that was never a problem. But it was always like, I thought it was like the hair thing was a big deal and stuff. But yeah, it was like little things like the hospital in Withernsea at the time had a big open square. And sometimes I feel a bit anxious when we were called to go from the waiting room, which was like all the seats were on the outside and there was like a set of doors in front of you. When you were called up, you'd have to go through them. And it was always like, I always didn't want my name to be called out because I know then when we get up, I'm going to be walked across my mum and everyone is going to be looking at us. But then I'm thinking, are they looking at us because we're black? And sometimes you could feel it in the streets. I'll be walking around with my mum and sisters and people would be staring. And like, I was always aware of like people were watching and looking, but then it's just like, I couldn't figure out why. And then immediately I'd go like, is it because we look like this? I never thought it was an issue, but I always wondered why people thought it was something to look at. Because we're no different, do you know what I mean? And that is something I even think about today. It's just like, why does it have to be something quite startling for people to see someone that looks a bit different from them, even though they know that they are people?
Did you ever chat with your parents about how to cope with that?
I spoke to my mum a lot. Spoke to my uncles. My mum's brothers are really cool about this type of stuff. But like, mainly my mum. My mum was just like, she was always reassuring that it's not your problem. It's nothing on you. She said it's nothing to worry about. And she's always kind of like, I wouldn't say divert it, but she'd always be like, just focus on school, focus on your books, get the things you need to have behind you. And, you'll have nothing like this to worry about. But I can kind of see what she was getting at. And, but it did make me feel better because it was nice to know that someone else kind of would see this type of stuff as well. Because growing up in Withernsea, I didn't have that many didn't have any black friends, but my friends there's like two in particular who I could speak about this stuff because can I say their names? I'm not to say their names. Yeah. So it's like Luke and Gaz, like they're like two of my closest mates. They've like, it's really weird because from such a young age when they would come around for tea, it's like, although they might want like the peanut soup or like the chicken and the stew, all the Ghanaian food that my mum would cook. My mum would be like, oh no, I'll get them sausages, bacon, egg chips. They're like, no, can we try this? And since then, like, that was one thing that was really cool because it was just like, if they can come and kind of, they were so like, I don't want to say into or fanboying over like my culture, but they were like, they just go along with it. Do you know what I mean? They didn't have any problem with it and they didn't laugh about it and, they just wanted to, they wanted to try it, which I thought was really nice and stuff. So like, I could like explain to them things that would like why I wouldn't want to go to certain parties or hang out with certain people because I didn't like. I was always like worried about what they might say or someone might say something, and I'd have these like go through these scenarios in my head. I still find myself doing it now sometimes where, okay, if I'm going to hang out with these people, you're gonna have to be wary because these people, someone there might say this. How would I answer that? How do I make this potential situation not awkward, not just for me, but for them and everyone else in the room? And it's just talking to other people who like myself and like basically they're like people of colour. It's like they might not think about it as often as I do, but they say, yeah, I do think about that, but then you've just got to try not to think about it, otherwise it's going to mess your head up and stuff. Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit roundabout answer.
That's really interesting, yeah. So, the young Kofi at school, perhaps say in secondary school, what did you shine at?
Sports. I was good at sports. I don't know, my body changed quite a lot. You go through puberty, you have all these changing bodies and stuff, but I was like quite heavy between like year 7, 8, 9, and then got to like 14, 15, and then just dropped the weight because I was sprinting for school, playing more rugby, really got into rugby. I was quite apathetic with a lot of stuff. Like, I wasn't bad at things, I just wasn't that interested. And I averaged out B's and C's the majority of the time, so it was just like, it was good, but coming from like Ghanaian household, high expectations, you know what I mean? It was like, you could always do better, and if you're not doing better, that's not good enough, do you know what I mean? And so it was a bit, that I thought was a bit stressful. Like English was fine, like I said, like I really enjoyed English language, PE, geography, history, sciences, which I look back now and I regret for not putting more effort into it, because I read up a lot on like stem cell research. I watch all these TED Talks and fascinated by chemistry these days. And it's just like, what was the thing that has attracted me to this stuff now? Why can't I tap into them? But I don't know. I did all right. I did all right with that stuff. But yeah,
you mentioned there parental expectations. Did your parents have any sort of career goals in mind for you?
Yeah, I think my mum wanted me to do law. Wanted me to be a lawyer, or pharmacist, and like I kind of was at like kind of loggerheads with them when I wanted to do. I did when I went to decided to English and journalism. The kind of agreement that we had was like, okay, you can do that, but then you go and do like your teacher training or something afterwards to kind of like balance it out. And I was like, yeah, sure. But I did English literature. I loved. I did in Northumbria, Newcastle. Great course. Great set of friends. Great teachers. Honestly, I couldn't be pushed enough. And like all the stuff that I'm doing now, if I didn't go to Northumbria or if I didn't have that type of course, I wouldn't be doing it now. Do you know what I mean? Because I learned a lot of skills. Like I started writing scripts. I've always been interested in writing like stories, short adventures and stuff when I was younger. Started doing it a lot more with backs and stuff at college, like comic scripts and little shorts and things, and filming bits with like Luke and guys, just mess around when we was kids. But at university, it was like we kind of last 2 years we really kind of. I say we, and me and some friends, we really kind of took to the media facilities that we had. Like we set up our own kind of student radio. We was going out contacting events and events organisations, promoters, and then can we come and film your like Mr. Scruff here or the Gentleman Rhymer there? Trying to get in anyway, just come film it, make a story out of it, interview, and it was fantastic. I was like, okay, this is the world that I want to be a part of, and yeah, it was really getting focused on trying to work in media, but like not be too generic, but try and do the things like I'd say probably stuff like you see Vice doing or like Nerdist News, where they take their interest and you really hone on it, but you kind of put it out to your specific type of audience and you're kind of nonchalant, but kind of almost quite graphic and somewhat provocative way. So yeah.
So always more interested in writing fact than fiction.
I don't know. I think, the comic, when we got interested in the comic, I was very interested in stories and comic books. I was always interested in the taking the fiction, then putting out facts to people. Like, okay, these writers, so let's say we took someone like Brian Michael Bendis, who was probably one of the biggest comic book writers of the day, maybe taking a few of his works and like, let's say if he was at a comic book convention, trying to interview him and get his story out to other people and say, this is why you should be reading this stuff. This is his background. These are the kind of stuff he's writing. These are the people he's writing for. But I think probably with facts with music, trying to interview musicians and getting people to check out these new sounds and stuff. So yeah, that was probably writing that sort of sense. So yeah.
Who were your icons, or who are your icons?
Oh,
who do you look up to? Who do you want to be like?
My mum's a big role model for us. She's just like. A lot of people like her. She's very relaxed, chilled down. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time with her, and I've learned a lot from her. People like Joseph P. Illidge, Donald Glover, Reginald Hudlin. All these guys are comic book writers, and Donald Glover. Obviously, you might know Rich Childish Gambino. He's a writer, actor, director, producer. People like Ava DuVernay. I don't know. Do you know her? She directed Selma. And she's just directed the Netflix documentary 13th about the 13th Amendment, and it's how it's rule and control over black people in the States, and obviously how there's been such a rise, such a bigger number of young black men incarcerated in the States and stuff. I've never really looked at sports stars and musicians. Well, some sort of musicians. I've never really looked at sports stars and like what people usually expect young black men to have their role models as like sports stars and musicians or something. That's never always been my focus. It's always been people that have done things that have kind of like changed people's lives. And for me, that was like writers. It's generally been writers. I think some musicians, I think it's hard for me because role models, it's quite a big word, isn't it? It's like who you aspire to. And like I say now, even like people like, I look at people like even like The Rock or Steve Jobs, just because everything they do, they put 100% into it. But then there's like a big part of their personas and what they do is like a backdoor to kind of how can I give some of this to other people? You know, I look at Akon and I think I'm not a fan of his music. His music is not, I might dance to it when we're in the clubbing position when we're like 18 years old. But like now, it's not something I listen to. But him as a person, like he's gave up most of his riches. So he's given like electricity to 16 million people in Africa, and it's just something that goes, well, I just looked around at my Rolex, my car. I was like, I don't need this, but there's so much more I could be doing with who I am and everything else. So just people like that. Like, I like philanthropists. My dad used to get the Time magazine, and when he get the Time 100, I'd literally get it and I'd look through it and I'd read through I still do it now. And like, I don't want to set my pedestal too high, but I read it. I just think all these people, they're doing some great things, and especially the movers, the thinkers, the innovators sections. And I just think, you know what? I'd love to see myself in there someday, just for kind of using my skills at like writing or like public speaking, and turning that into something where you can inspire other people to kind of use their time and their time on earth to be able to kind of just help people.
Yeah.
Because I think that, I know I get a lot of this from what I've got from my mum, like even when she's had nothing or hasn't had the ability to help people, she's always found a way to do, so not just help us, but help her family back home, and strangers, like people that come over to the UK, other black people, Asian people that come over to this area, not knowing what to do with themselves or where to go. She's found a way to kind of put them in the right direction with someone, or help them out with some money, something financial. And it's like, she's kind of hit home that whole thing about power and responsibility, which I know is a big thing about Spiderman, but that's one thing which kind of hammered it home, where I heard a lot of my mum say that type of stuff. I read a lot of Spider-Man comics. I was like, okay, there's a trend here in superhero comics. Like, if you have the power and ability to do something, you have the responsibility to do it. So it's always been like, something. Yeah.
They say it takes a good 10 years or so to become an overnight success.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and you've got this sort of opportunity now, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've sort of explained already this journey that you've had through your interest in media and your degree course too. And now you're going to be the face of the City of Culture for the BBC for the next 12 months. I'm interested in how you're going to be describing Hull to the people you're broadcasting to.
There's two sides to it. Like, there's the side that I saw as a kid, and the side that I've experienced as an adult / young adult. And as a kid, my mum would literally like pack my sisters, my little brother and I. She'd be there, my brother in his pram, get on the 75 bus with us, and we'd come into Hull. Now, this was like a big deal every weekend. We'd come to Hull, we wouldn't even buy anything. We would just literally just walk around the shops, look at stuff, check things out, maybe visit the museum quarter. But it wasn't as it is today. We'd have a look at the old town. Because going from like modern Hull and then going into the old town, it's like, oh my God, it's like two complete different places. I remember one time thinking, are we actually in York? Because we got taken to York once. And I was like, oh God, just like how it is in York and stuff. And just saying, like, it was our big city. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating, but when you were a kid, 5, 6, 7, coming out from Withernsea and then coming into Hull, it's like, that's how New York, do you know what I mean? It's like where the cinema is. At the time, that's where McDonald's is. It's where Princess Keys arcade. And it's just like, wow, do you know what I mean? We don't get to see this all the time. But even though we went shopping, it was quite magical. As a teen, it was nice because I had my friends from school there, and you meet other kids from other schools and exploring things like the avenues and all that side of Hull it was really, really adventurous, But then after a while, you're at that gap between, we can't hang out in the streets anymore and in the parks, but we're not old enough to go out. So that's when you kind of get a bit disgruntled, like, well, there's nothing much more for us to do. There's really nothing going on, so I can't wait to kind of get out and do all this type of stuff. But then when you do finally get out, I always tell people I'm from Hull, because Withernsea was too hard to describe, but most people head of Hull. It's like, I really miss Hull. I really miss home. Just the size of it, just the accent, and just how just the general vibe of the people. And even though a lot of people try and run away from this Hollensian side to them, it's always in there. We can be quite opinionated, we can be quite passionate, but there's a really good sense family. There's some people who have, like I said, you've known for years, and you wouldn't trade that anything. If I wasn't in Hull, I wouldn't know these guys, and we wouldn't have done this down this place. And one thing I really realised about this city was when we was actually doing the auditions for the Face at Hull, a lot of people were there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, and I was chatting to a lot of the guys, and people were telling me stories about chants out of Princess Avenue, Spiders, White Frigate, just things that happened to them down there. Good stories, bad stories, you know what I mean? Like heartaches, you know, like lost loves, you know what I mean? Coming to marriages and all this type of stuff. And I just think, wow, I'm learning so much more about a place I've spent so many years. And it was just kind of like, this city's got so much more to it. And I learned on that day that there's more to it than just the world of myself, my friends. And it's like, in this such a small space, that so many people seem to be disgruntled by. And I just think people just need to kind of talk and communicate together. Which I think that the 2017, like the city culture is going to be so good because it's just, we're going to be able to like shine a spotlight on all the good stuff that's even there and share it with everyone else. And I was saying to someone like, considering all this like kind of, I say darkness that seemed to be happening in all different corners of the globe, because the UK's eye is going to be on us, the world's eye is going to be on us. This is the chance for us to be like that Superman symbol, that S, you know what I mean? That symbol of hope, like, yeah, Hull has got its problems, but look at us now, you know what I mean? We've changed, or well, I won't say we changed. Well, you're going to get to see all the parts of us that you might not have seen before. And we want to invite you guys to be part of it. Because in a lot of people's eyes, Hull is this place that you pass through. But now the Hull Daily Mail did this, like, well, they reported this story where people doing the face of the Hull. And it was looking at all the people from crazy and like, obscure places in the world, like some people from Japan, Tibet, a lot of people from like West Africa, South Africa, America, that people might consider as like more enticing places to live, who had come to Hull and they stayed. There's something here that's obviously making people want to leave their like countries of origin, not speak our language and stay here. Do you know what I mean? That's a win, that's a token. It's just like, it's finding these little bits that are causing people to do this. And I think they're worth sticking around to kind of like, I think those little moments are kind of worth sticking around to kind of figure out what they are.
There have been changes, though, in Hull over the last couple of decades, haven't there? So,
yeah.
Are any of those changes particularly important too?
I think it's diversity, definitely. I'm like, because you look at, and I think it's, maybe this is me thinking with my belly, but like the diversity is kind of like sprawled into like the palette of like the city. And you look at like Springbank, you look at Princess Avenue, you even look at Cottingham Road, just the different types of food that has come out and a change in how people might see themselves. Because if you're willing to try another culture's food, you're willing to open yourself up to another nationality. I think that's a big step. And like you see people down in Kurdistan, Petra, Jericho, all the different cuisines that you've got down Princess Ave. I think that is kind of like showing people that it's, oh, okay, obviously it must be run by someone who's not from Hull. If they're setting up a business here, then, do you know what I mean? There must be something in it for them to have reason to kind of start a life here. And it's like, yeah, it's been interesting because I remember coming back from uni one year and just been like, oh my God, where are all these brown faces coming from? And like, I know a lot of people might not recognize it, but when you used to be like one of the few, you pick up when there's more. And like, I don't know, I've liked it because I felt more like I could blend in a bit more rather than standing out. So, but I think I can only think about good things because I've seen the younger generation, teens of like mixed bag of kids all having a laugh, bouncing around, do you know what I mean? And it's like, I really like seeing that. Do you know what I mean? White kids, brown kids, black kids, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm like, that's good. I'm like, that's good for the city. Because I feel like it's progressing.
Yeah. Been really good to chat.
Oh, thank you. I can't believe it's
Thank you
over.
very much.
Oh, man. Thanks a lot. Shit. Man.